Ryan had
Soldiers
never
of the
imagined that
Silver
a simple
Legion.
supply run would turn
Today
into a
we
battle for
reclaim
survival.
what is ours.
His small human spacecraft had been
Prepare
escorting
for
cargo
battle.
to a research station on the edge of Varkari-controlled space. The Varkari were an alien race with sharp features, strong limbs, and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. Humans and Varkari had been in conflict for years, fighting over territory and resources. Ryan was trained for war, but he had never been part of a fight this close. The attack had come without warning. Varkari fighters descended from the sky like dark metallic birds. Their speed and precision were terrifying. Ryan fought bravely, dodging plasma blasts and trying to protect his cargo. But his small ship was no match for the larger, faster Varkari craft. In a flash, his engine was hit. Sparks flew and alarms blared as the ship spiraled out of control. Ryan gritted his teeth, struggling to stabilize the vessel, but gravity took over, pulling him toward the planet's surface. The crash was violent. Flames consumed the hull and Ryan was thrown clear of the wreckage. He landed in the soft undergrowth of a dense forest, pain shooting through his shoulder. His ears rang and smoke stung his eyes. Slowly, he pushed himself up and took stock of his surroundings. The forest was unlike anything he had seen on Earth. Massive trees with translucent leaves towered overhead. Strange vines hung like curtains, and the air was filled with the hum of alien insects. The smell of damp earth mixed with a faint metallic tang. Ryan checked his communicator. Dead. The ship's distress beacon was offline. For a moment, despair threatened to overwhelm him. He was alone on a hostile planet in enemy territory. Then he heard soft, frightened noises nearby. Movement. He froze. His instincts told him to hide. A small shadow darted between the trees. Ryan crouched low, observing. Two figures emerged, unlike any Varkari soldiers he had seen before. They were children. One was slightly taller, maybe 10 cycles old, and the other younger, barely 6. Their skin shimmered faintly in the dim light. Their eyes were large and full of fear. The older child, Tilo, held the hand of the younger, Mira, pulling her along as if guiding her through danger. Ryan's training urged caution. He was an intruder here. If the Varkari patrol found him, or if these children ran to them, it could mean death. Yet something inside him stirred. A memory of his own younger sibling flashed through his mind. He could not leave them to the forest alone. They needed help. Slowly he stood and stepped into view. "I won't hurt you," he said softly, trying to sound calm. The children froze, their eyes wide. Mira whimpered, hiding behind her brother. Tilo narrowed his eyes, unsure if this stranger was friend or foe. Ryan lowered his hands, showing that he carried no weapon. "I'm not your enemy," he said again. "I want to help you." For a long moment, the forest was silent except for the hum of insects. Then Tilo took a step forward. "Why should we trust you?" he asked, his voice trembling but steady. Ryan thought carefully. "Because I know what it is to be scared and alone. I won't leave you here." The younger child clung to her brother's side. Mira peeked at Ryan, curiosity mixed with fear. She seemed to sense his sincerity. Tilo hesitated, then nodded slightly. It was enough. Ryan stepped closer, careful not to frighten them. "Follow me," he whispered. "There's a safe place nearby." The forest was dense and dangerous. Ryan led the children through twisted paths and over roots that could trip even a human. Strange plants brushed against their skin. Some cold, some sticky. Every shadow could hide predators. Every sound could be an enemy. Yet Ryan moved confidently, drawing on his training. He taught the children to move quietly, to listen for danger and to hide when necessary. Tilo and Mira copied him as best they could, sometimes tripping or stumbling but always following. Hours passed. The sun began to set, casting long, eerie shadows through the translucent leaves. Ryan found a natural hollow in the forest floor, partially covered by vines. It was not large, but it would serve as shelter for the night. He helped the children inside, checking for any injuries. Mira's small arm had a scratch from a branch, and Tilo had a bruise on his knee. Ryan cleaned the wounds with water from his canteen and tore strips of fabric from his uniform to bandage them. "Why are we alive?" Mira whispered, her voice barely audible. Ryan smiled gently. "Because we are careful and because we look out for each other. That is what keeps us alive." Tilo glanced at him, eyes wide. "Even if you are human?" "Yes," Ryan said simply. "Even if I am human." That night the forest seemed alive with sound. Strange creatures rustled in the underbrush. Some emitted light and others had long, sinuous bodies that glided between trees. Ryan kept watch while the children slept, alert for any sign of Varkari patrols or predators. He thought about the war, about the humans who saw Varkari as enemies. He thought about the children, innocent and scared. His heart ached for them. As darkness deepened, Ryan allowed himself a moment to rest. He knew that the morning would bring new challenges. They could not stay here forever. The forest was vast and danger was everywhere. But he also knew something else. He would not abandon these children. Not now, not ever. When dawn came, it brought light but also danger. The forest was filled with the hum of activity. Birds with translucent wings flitted between the trees, and small creatures scuttled across the ground. Ryan knew they could be seen from above. He needed a plan. He decided to move toward a river he had spotted from his crash site. Water would give them a better chance to navigate safely, and it could serve as a marker to help him plan their route. He packed the children's belongings, simple clothing and scraps of food, into a makeshift satchel. Tilo and Mira followed closely, trusting him more now than before. As they moved, Ryan told them stories of Earth. He spoke of forests and rivers, mountains and oceans. He told them about humans who worked together, humans who protected each other even in times of war. The children listened, eyes wide with wonder. For a moment, the fear that had dominated their lives seemed to fade, but danger was never far away. Halfway to the river, they encountered signs of Varkari patrols. Broken branches, footprints larger than human size, and strange markings etched into trees. Ryan knew they had to be careful. He found a small cave and led the children inside. "Stay quiet," he whispered, "and do not move until I say so." Through the entrance, he could see the patrol moving, 3 Varkari soldiers searching for intruders. Their glowing eyes scanned the forest, their movements precise and coordinated. Ryan held his breath. He knew that even the smallest mistake could reveal them. Hours passed. The patrol moved on, unaware of their hiding place. Ryan let out a quiet sigh of relief. "We're safe for now," he said. Tilo and Mira looked up at him, trust and admiration in their eyes. By midday, they reached the river. The water was clear and cool, reflecting the sky above. Ryan allowed the children to drink, and he took a moment to rest. They had survived the first day together, but he knew the journey ahead would be harder. As they sat by the river, Ryan thought about the future. He knew that returning the children to safety would not be easy. The Varkari would search for them, and humans might not understand his actions. Yet he also knew that protecting them was the right thing to do. Morality, courage, and compassion were stronger than fear and hatred. Tilo and Mira began to smile, tentative but real. For the first time since the attack, they felt a sense of hope. And Ryan, looking at them, felt something he had not felt in a long time: purpose. He was not just a soldier stranded on an alien planet. He was a protector, a guide, and a friend. As the sun set, painting the sky with hues of red and orange, Ryan knew that the journey had just begun. The forest was vast and danger waited around every corner, but he also knew that as long as they stayed together, they could face whatever came next. And so, in the shadow of a war-torn planet, a human and 2 alien children formed an unlikely alliance. Trust was fragile, but it was there. Courage was tested, but it held strong. And somewhere in the distance, unseen, the Varkari watched, unaware that one human had already begun to change the course of events. Ryan took a deep breath, ready to lead the children into the unknown. He did not know what challenges awaited, but he knew one thing: he would protect them no matter the cost. The morning sun filtered through the translucent leaves, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Ryan awoke first as usual, listening to the quiet hum of alien life around them. Tilo and Mira were still asleep, huddled close to each other for warmth. He looked at them, small and fragile in this vast and dangerous world, and felt a renewed sense of responsibility. He had survived the crash, but these children depended on him completely. Every decision he made could mean safety or disaster. Ryan stretched and checked the river. The water sparkled untouched and pure. He motioned for the children to wake up. "Time to move," he said softly. "We need to reach higher ground before the patrols return." Tilo rubbed his eyes, still tired but alert. Mira clung to him, trembling slightly. "Are they going to find us again?" Tilo asked, voice low. Ryan shook his head. "Not if we stay quiet and smart. I'll show you how to stay safe." They followed Ryan along the riverbank. The forest was alive with movement. Strange plants shifted slightly as if sensing their presence. Some creatures scuttled along the ground while others glided silently in the trees above. Ryan's senses were alert, trained for danger, but he also noticed the beauty around him. This planet, hostile as it was, held wonders humans could never imagine. The children noticed it too. Mira's eyes sparkled as she watched a cluster of glowing insects dance above the water, while Tilo pointed out a vine that seemed to sway with purpose, almost like it was guiding them forward. As they walked, Ryan began to teach the children how to observe their surroundings. "Notice the patterns," he said. "The way creatures move, the way shadows fall. This will tell you if something is coming." Tilo tried to mimic Ryan's movements, crouching low and moving carefully through the underbrush. Mira copied him, though she struggled to stay balanced. They stumbled occasionally, but Ryan encouraged them, helping them over roots and rocks. It was exhausting work, but the children began to learn quickly. They were clever, and their fear did not stop them from trying. During a quiet moment, Ryan asked, "Where is your home?" Tilo hesitated. "Far from here, across the mountains," he said. "We lived in a city that shone like glass. My parents—" His voice faltered, and he looked away. Mira squeezed his hand as if to remind him she was there. Ryan nodded gently. "I understand. I lost people I cared about too. That is why I know it is important to protect each other, no matter what." The children listened, absorbing his words. For the first time, they seemed to understand that he was not just a stranger but someone who genuinely cared. Trust was growing between them, delicate but real. They reached a small clearing by midday. Ryan allowed the children to rest while he searched for food. The forest was generous if one knew what to look for. Strange fruits hung from the trees, some glowing faintly, others soft and plump. Ryan examined them carefully, checking for signs of toxicity. He gave the children the safest fruits, showing them how to test for taste and smell. Mira bit into a soft, sweet fruit and smiled for the first time in days. Tilo followed cautiously at first, then with growing confidence. While they ate, Ryan shared stories of Earth. He spoke of forests filled with green leaves, rivers that reflected the sky, and mountains that seemed to touch the clouds. He described the animals, some small and harmless, others large and dangerous. The children listened, eyes wide, fascinated by these tales of another world. "You humans must be very brave," Tilo said finally. "You live in such a dangerous place too, yet you explore it." Ryan smiled. "Bravery is not about not being afraid. It is about doing what is right, even when you are afraid." The rest of the day was spent moving cautiously through the forest. Ryan taught the children simple camouflage techniques, showing them how to blend into the environment. He demonstrated how to move silently, how to use the terrain to hide, and how to signal danger without making noise. Tilo and Mira practiced eagerly, sometimes tripping or giggling quietly, but always improving. As the sun began to set, they found a shallow cave at the base of a rocky hill. It was not large, but it offered shelter from the cold and predators. Ryan built a small fire outside, careful to keep it low and hidden. The flames illuminated their faces, casting flickering shadows on the rocks. The children sat close to him, sharing warmth. Tilo leaned against Ryan. "Do you think they will come back?" he asked. Ryan thought carefully. "It is possible. That is why we must be ready. But no matter what happens, I will protect you." Mira nodded, her small hand reaching for Ryan's. "We trust you," she said softly. Night in the alien forest was alive with sounds. Creatures with glowing eyes moved in the darkness, and the wind carried strange whispers. Ryan kept watch while the children slept, scanning the shadows for any sign of threat. He thought about the Varkari soldiers, about the patrols that might be searching for them. But he also thought about the courage he had seen in these children. Despite everything, they had trusted him, and he would not let them down. The next morning, they continued their journey. Ryan led them through valleys and over hills, using the river as a guide. Along the way, he encouraged the children to observe their surroundings and think for themselves. "Notice the patterns of the animals," he said. "Listen to the wind. It can tell you a lot about what is ahead." By midday, they encountered the first real challenge. A fallen tree blocked the riverbank, its roots forming a tangled mess. Across the tree, they could see signs of recent movement, footprints that were too large for humans, marking a predator or patrol. Ryan motioned for the children to hide behind rocks. "Stay low," he whispered. A Varkari scout appeared, scanning the area carefully. Ryan held his breath, willing the children to remain still. The scout moved closer, then paused, sniffing the air. Ryan signaled the children to stay calm. Slowly, the scout moved on, unaware of their presence. The children exhaled quietly, relief washing over them. "That was close," Tilo whispered. "Yes," Ryan said, "but you did exactly what I taught you. You stayed quiet and calm. That is what kept us safe." They continued along the river, moving carefully. The children's confidence grew with each challenge. Mira was learning to move silently, and Tilo was becoming alert to danger without panicking. Ryan was impressed by their resilience and intelligence. As evening approached, they reached a small hill overlooking a wide valley. The view was breathtaking. Strange plants formed patterns across the landscape, and distant mountains glowed faintly under the setting sun. Ryan and the children paused, taking in the scene. "This is beautiful," Mira said softly. "Yes," Ryan agreed. "Even in a dangerous place there is beauty. That is why it is important to protect it and those who live here." That night, as they rested in a hidden alcove on the hill, Ryan reflected on the day. The children were learning quickly, and their trust in him was growing. He had survived the crash, but now his mission had changed. It was no longer about returning to human territory or completing a supply run. It was about protecting these children, about showing that courage, intelligence, and compassion could exist even in a world at war. The forest around them was alive with night sounds, but Ryan felt a sense of calm. They had survived another day, and they were stronger for it. Tilo and Mira slept peacefully, trusting him completely. And Ryan, watching over them, felt a quiet determination. He would guide them to safety no matter the dangers ahead. By morning, the bond between them was unmistakable. The children looked at Ryan not just as a protector, but as a guide and a friend. And Ryan, in turn, had come to see them not as alien strangers, but as individuals worthy of care, respect, and protection. The forest was vast and dangerous, but together, they were stronger than the threats that awaited, and so, as the first light of dawn touched the forest canopy, a human and two alien children continued their journey through the unknown. Trust, courage, and hope bound them together, preparing them for the challenges yet to come. Ryan, Tilo, and Mira had traveled for several cycles through the dense alien forest. Their journey had been slow but steady. The children were learning quickly, and their trust in Ryan had grown stronger with each passing day. Ryan, in turn, had grown protective of them. He had faced dangers before, but none had stirred his sense of duty like these two small, vulnerable beings. One morning, as sunlight filtered through the canopy, the forest fell unusually silent. The usual hum of insects and calls of alien creatures vanished, leaving a tense emptiness. Ryan paused, listening carefully. His instincts, honed through years of survival training, told him that this silence was not natural. He crouched low, signaling the children to do the same. "They are near," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Get ready." Tilo and Mira pressed themselves against the ground. Mira's small hand found Ryan's, squeezing it tightly. Ryan took a deep breath, his mind racing. The Varkari patrols were precise, but this was different. There was a power in the presence that approached, a weight, an authority that even trained soldiers would respect. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and imposing, with features sharper than any Varkari scout they had encountered. The alien paused at the edge of the clearing. Her skin shimmered in hues of silver and blue, and her eyes glowed with intelligence and authority. This was no ordinary patrol. This was Solara, the Varkari Matriarch. Ryan rose slowly, keeping his hands visible. "I am human," he said calmly, "and I mean no harm. I only protected your grandchildren." Solara's eyes narrowed, her gaze piercing. "You call them my grandchildren?" Her voice was low, yet every word carried weight. "You, who belong to the species that brought war to my people, claim to protect them?" Ryan did not flinch. "Yes, I found them alone and afraid. I could not leave them behind. That is all I have done." Solara's expression was unreadable. She studied Ryan carefully, noting his posture, his calm tone, and the absence of weapons in his hands. "Many humans claim righteousness in war. Few act without expectation of reward. Why should I believe you are different?" Ryan looked at the children who were watching the exchange silently. Their trust was evident in their eyes. He took a steady breath and said, "Because I had nothing to gain. I could have left them. I could have escaped. But I did not. My actions show who I am, not my words. The matriarch remained silent, her glowing eyes flicking between Rian and the children. For a moment, the forest seemed to hold its breath. Then she stepped forward, her movements graceful and commanding. You saved them from danger, but the world you belong to is my enemy. Do you understand the risk you have taken? Rian nodded. Yes, I understand. And I accept it. Their lives were worth the risk. Silara's gaze softened slightly as she looked at the children. Tilo and Mira clung to each other but did not hide. The matriarch's expression shifted in subtle ways, a mixture of anger, curiosity, and something like respect. She spoke again, her voice calm but firm. I have observed your actions from afar. You have proven courage and intelligence. But courage alone does not guarantee trust. You will need to show more if you are to be worthy of standing before me freely. Ryan's heart beat faster, but he remained composed. I will do whatever is needed. Silara's eyes flickered with a faint light, almost as if acknowledging his resolve. You will lead them to my territory beyond the mountains. There I will judge your actions and the value of your loyalty. The journey will not be easy. Enemy forces are present along the way. If you fail, there will be consequences for both you and the children. Tilo whispered to Mira. Can we trust her? Mira nodded slowly. Ryan said we can survive together. We have to try. Ryan glanced at them and gave a reassuring nod. We will face it together. Stay close to me. With that, they began their journey toward the distant mountains, guided by the matriarch's instructions. The path was treacherous. Jagged rocks rose from the ground and streams of water flowed swiftly, forcing careful navigation. Strange plants reached out with tendrils, some harmless, some sharp enough to pierce skin. Ryan led the children through it all, teaching them how to step carefully, how to avoid traps, and how to observe the subtle signs of danger. As they climbed higher, the forest gave way to a rocky landscape. The wind was cold and sharp, cutting through their clothing. Ryan wrapped the children in his jacket, shielding them as best he could. They huddled together, moving slowly but steadily. Along the way, Ryan explained the importance of observation. The world is not only dangerous because of soldiers, he said. It is also dangerous because of nature. Look for patterns. Listen for changes in the air and ground. That knowledge keeps us alive. Tilo and Mira listened carefully, absorbing every word. Mira's small hands were steady now as she helped Tilo over rough terrain. The children's confidence grew with each obstacle, and Rian felt a quiet pride in their courage. By midday, they reached a plateau overlooking a wide valley. The air was thin, and the mountains rose like silver teeth in the distance. From this vantage point, Rian could see movement far below, small patrols of Varkari soldiers and strange vehicles moving through the terrain. He knew that their journey would not be simple. Stay behind me, Ryan instructed. We will move quietly down the slope and follow the natural cover of the terrain. The descent was slow and dangerous. Loose rocks slid underfoot and sudden drops forced careful navigation. Ryan guided the children, his senses alert for any signs of pursuit. Every step was a test of patience and skill. Hours passed and the children began to tire. Ryan encouraged them, telling stories to keep their spirits high. He spoke of earth, of forests and mountains, of rivers and skies. The children's eyes widened with wonder, even amidst the stress of their journey. As night approached, they found a shallow cave hidden among the rocks. It was small but safe. Ryan built a low fire, careful to keep it contained. The children ate the small ration of food he had packed, and Ryan shared water from his canteen. Why do you help us? Tilo asked quietly. Rian looked at him, thinking carefully. Because it is the right thing to do, not because it will make me famous or rewarded. Sometimes doing the right thing is all that matters. Mira nodded, her eyes shining. You are brave. Ryan smiled faintly. Bravery is not about fighting. It is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The night passed quietly. The forest and mountains around them were alive with strange noises, but Ryan kept watch, alert for any signs of danger. He knew that the matriarch was watching from afar, assessing him and the children. Her presence was a reminder that their journey was far from over. By morning, Ryan led the children further along the mountain path. The air grew colder and the terrain more challenging. Yet despite the hardships, the bond between them strengthened. Tilo and Mira were learning quickly, and Ryan's guidance had turned their fear into determination. As they reached a narrow ridge, Ryan paused. Far below, in a wide clearing, they saw movement that made his heart race. A Varkari patrol was moving toward them. The children froze. Stay calm, Ryan whispered. We will not be seen if we move carefully. Using the natural cover of rocks and shadows, Ryan led them across the ridge. Every step required careful planning, every movement measured. The patrol passed below without noticing them. The children exhaled quietly, relief washing over them. Ryan looked at them and said, "You did well." "That is courage," Tilo smiled faintly. Mira squeezed his hand. Their trust in Ryan had solidified completely. They were no longer just survivors. They were learners, observers, and companions on a journey that tested both courage and wisdom. As they continued toward the Matriarch's territory, Ryan knew that the true test was only beginning. Solara's arrival had changed everything. The stakes were higher, the risks greater, but the bond between him and the children had never been stronger. They would face whatever came next together, and somewhere in the distance, the Matriarch watched, silently judging, silently learning. Ryan led the children forward, ready to meet the challenges ahead, determined to prove that courage, compassion, and intelligence could bridge worlds and change the course of destiny. The mountains rose higher as Ryan, Tilo, and Mira pressed forward. The air grew thin and cold, biting at their skin. The forest had given way to rocky slopes, jagged cliffs, and narrow paths that could not be crossed without careful steps. Every movement required attention, and Ryan's eyes scanned constantly for danger. The Matriarch's words echoed in his mind. "You will need to show more if you are to be worthy of standing before me freely." Ryan knew the test had begun. It was no longer only about survival. Every choice he made now would determine whether the children reached safety, whether he earned Solara's trust, and whether he could prove that humans were capable of honor even amidst war. "Stay close," he whispered to the children. "The path is dangerous, but we will make it." Tilo and Mira nodded. The bond they shared with Ryan had grown unbreakable. The fear in their eyes had faded, replaced by determination. Mira clutched his hand tightly, and Tilo stayed at his side, alert and ready to follow his lead. Their first challenge came quickly. A landslide had blocked part of the path, leaving only a narrow ledge along a cliff. One misstep could mean a fall that none of them would survive. Ryan went first, testing each foothold carefully. He guided the children slowly, showing them where to step and how to balance. Mira trembled as she took her first steps on the ledge. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know," Ryan said gently. "But you can do this. Focus on each step, not the drop. I'm right here with you." Step by step they made their way across. Tilo's face was tense, but he did not falter. Mira's confidence grew with every careful movement. When they reached solid ground, Ryan allowed himself a small sigh of relief. "That is courage," he said, smiling at the children. "You faced fear and moved forward anyway. That is what makes us strong." As they continued, Ryan noticed strange markings on the rocks, symbols etched deeply, glowing faintly in the low light. He recognized them from Varkari patrols, warning signs indicating territory or danger. The patrols were near and they had to be cautious. Ryan led the children through a narrow gorge, using the shadows and jagged rocks for cover. The wind howled through the cliffs, masking their movements. Every sound could betray them. Every glance could reveal their position. Hours passed. The sun dipped lower, casting the valley in red and gold. Ryan paused at a ledge overlooking a plateau. Below he saw a patrol moving with precise coordination. Varkari soldiers, armed and alert, scanning the terrain for intruders. "We have to go around," he whispered to the children. "If they see us, we will be trapped." Using a series of hidden paths he had noticed, Ryan guided them down a narrow slope, keeping them low and silent. The children followed his instructions perfectly, crouching behind rocks, moving only when he gave the signal. The patrol passed below without noticing them. Ryan allowed himself a quiet sigh of relief. "That was close," Tilo whispered. "Yes," Ryan said, "but you did exactly what I taught you. That is how we survive." Night fell quickly in the mountains, colder and darker than the forest. Ryan found a small cave tucked into the side of the cliff. It was narrow but offered protection from wind and predators. He built a low fire, careful to keep the smoke hidden. Tilo and Mira huddled near him, shivering but safe. As they rested, Ryan explained the next part of their journey. "The Matriarch wants to test us," he said. "We are being observed. Our actions now will show her if we are trustworthy." "How will she watch us?" Mira asked. "From a distance," Ryan explained. "The Varkari are very clever. She can see more than we realize. That is why every step we take must be careful and wise." The children nodded, understanding the importance of the task. They had learned quickly. but this would be the ultimate challenge. The next morning they set out early, moving through a narrow mountain pass. Ryan noticed subtle signs of Varkari patrols ahead, broken branches, footprints, and faint glowing markers on rocks. He guided the children into a hidden alcove to wait. Hours passed. The patrols moved slowly, scanning the terrain. Ryan taught the children to remain still for long periods, to control their breathing, and to stay silent even when anxious. Mira's small hand was steady in his, and Tilo's eyes scanned the surroundings with alertness. Finally, the patrol moved on. Ryan signaled the children to continue. Their path led them into a canyon with sharp rocks and sudden drops. Ryan used his knowledge of terrain to find the safest route. He encouraged the children, praising their careful steps and alert minds. By midday, they reached a river that cut through the canyon. The water was swift and cold. Crossing it would be dangerous, but Ryan knew it was the only way forward. He tested the river, finding a shallow point with steady rocks for footing. "Follow my steps exactly," he instructed. "One slip and we could be swept away." The children moved cautiously. Tilo took the lead after Ryan, balancing carefully on the slippery stones. Mira followed, gripping his hand tightly. The current tugged at them, but Ryan stayed close, steadying them when needed. When they reached the other side, they collapsed briefly, exhausted but victorious. "That is bravery," Ryan said. "You faced danger and overcame it. That is how we grow stronger." The final test came as they approached a plateau near the Matriarch's territory. Ryan noticed strange traps along the path, pits hidden by foliage, rocks that could trigger alarms, and subtle signs of observation. This was no accident. Solara wanted to see their intelligence, courage, and morality in action. Ryan led the children carefully. He avoided the traps and demonstrated ways to detect danger. The children watched and learned, understanding that thinking ahead and observing the environment were just as important as courage. Suddenly, a small patrol appeared ahead. The children froze. Ryan motioned for them to stay low. He assessed the patrol's path, calculating the timing needed to pass undetected. He whispered instructions to the children, guiding them silently through rocks and shadows. The patrol passed without noticing them. Tilo exhaled quietly, a smile forming on his face. Mira clung to Ryan, relief washing over her. "We did it," she whispered. "Yes," Ryan said, smiling. "We did it together." By evening, they reached a hidden grove near the edge of the plateau. Ryan allowed the children to rest. They ate the last of their rations and drank from a small spring. The day had tested their courage, intelligence, and trust in each other. They had passed every obstacle, every challenge, without fear breaking them or rash decisions putting them in danger. Ryan reflected on their journey. The Matriarch's test was more than physical. It was a test of character. They had demonstrated patience, observation, and loyalty. Most importantly, they had faced every challenge together, supporting each other and trusting in what was right. As night fell, Ryan kept watch. The stars above were bright and unfamiliar, shining over the alien landscape. He thought about Solara, observing them from a distance. She had designed these tests to challenge not only their survival skills but their morality. Every step had been a lesson in courage, intelligence, and compassion. Tilo and Mira slept soundly, exhausted but safe. Ryan looked at them, pride swelling in his chest. They were no longer just children fleeing danger. They were learners, allies, and symbols of hope. The journey ahead would bring even greater challenges, but Ryan was confident. Together they could overcome any obstacle. Trust, courage, and intelligence would guide them through the unknown, and somewhere high above, unseen, the Matriarch observed. Solara's expression remained unreadable, but a faint glow in her eyes suggested approval. The human had proven himself worthy in action, not words. The children's safety had been ensured, and their courage had been nurtured. Ryan tightened his cloak around the children and whispered, "Tomorrow, we reach the next challenge. Stay close, stay alert, and trust in what we have learned." The children nodded, their small hands finding his. Together they rested under the alien stars, ready for the next test that would decide their fate and the future of trust between their species. For the first time, Ryan felt a quiet certainty. They could face the Matriarch's judgment and emerge not just as survivors, but as examples of courage, intelligence, and humanity's potential for honor. The morning sun cast long shadows across the plateau as Ryan, Tilo, and Mira approached the edge of the Varkari territory. The mountains in the distance rose like silver towers, jagged and imposing. Ryan's heart beat steadily, but his mind was alert. The journey had been long, and every step had tested their courage, intelligence, and trust. Now the final test awaited. The Matriarch's presence was palpable. Even from afar, Ryan could feel her authority, the weight of her eyes upon them. Solara had designed these trials not to punish but to observe, to understand whether a human could act with honor and courage even in the midst of war. "Stay close," Ryan whispered to the children. "Remember what we have learned. Patience, observation, and trust. That is how we succeed." Tilo nodded, gripping Ryan's hand. Mira followed, small and determined. Neither of them faltered despite the tension. Together they moved forward carefully. The path led them to a wide valley. Strange plants dotted the landscape, some tall and flexible, some low and thick. The valley was quiet, almost unnaturally so. Ryan signaled the children to stay alert. He noticed subtle movements, creatures shifting in the shadows, faint glows in the distance, signs of observation. The Matriarch was near. Suddenly the air shimmered. A figure appeared before them, tall and commanding. Solara, the Varkari Matriarch, stepped forward. Her silver-blue skin reflected the sunlight, her eyes glowing with intelligence and authority. She did not speak immediately, but her gaze was sharp, examining every movement of Ryan and the children. "You have reached my territory," Solara said at last, her voice calm but strong. "You have faced danger, shown courage, and protected what was dear. Tell me, human, why should I honor your actions when your species has brought so much suffering to mine?" Ryan stood tall. "Because right and wrong are not defined by species. I protected these children because it was the right thing to do. Not for reward, not for recognition. Only because it was necessary." Solara's eyes flickered as she studied him. "Few humans act without expectation. Yet you risked your life for my grandchildren, not knowing if it would save or cost them." "I would do it again," Ryan said simply. "Every time." The children stood quietly, their trust in Ryan evident. Tilo stepped forward slightly. "He saved us. He taught us to be careful, to watch, and to trust. He kept us alive," Mira nodded. "We trust him. He is brave and kind." Solara regarded the children, then turned back to Ryan. "Your actions demonstrate qualities that are rare, even among my own people. Courage, intelligence, and morality are evident. Yet words alone are not enough. Show me again that your loyalty and honor extend beyond survival." Ryan understood. He knew the final challenge was about more than survival. It was about proving humanity's capacity for compassion and intelligence in the face of conflict. The Matriarch led them to a series of natural obstacles. A deep canyon, a fast-flowing river, and jagged cliffs. "You must guide these children safely across," Solara said. "And you must avoid dangers I have placed along the way. Your ability to think, observe, and act will determine your worthiness." Ryan nodded. "We will succeed together." The canyon was narrow, with steep walls and unstable rocks. Ryan tested each step before moving, instructing the children to follow his lead carefully. Tilo and Mira mimicked his movements, balancing on rocks and avoiding loose stones. The canyon seemed endless, but their determination carried them forward. At the river, the current was swift and strong. Ryan examined it carefully, finding a path of stepping stones and shallow areas. "Follow me exactly," he instructed. "One wrong step and the current will take you." The children moved cautiously, guided by Ryan's steady hands. Mira's small feet slipped once, but Ryan caught her just in time. Tilo's focus never wavered. Step by step, they crossed safely. "The key is observation and patience," Ryan said. "Never rush and think before you move." As they continued, they encountered the final obstacle, a narrow cliff path with hidden traps and natural hazards. Ryan moved first, demonstrating how to detect subtle changes in the terrain. Rocks that could shift, plants that could entangle, and uneven ground that could cause a fall. The children watched carefully, learning quickly. Mira whispered, "He is teaching us everything." "Yes," Tilo said. "We can trust him. He knows the way." Ryan guided them across the cliff with precision. Each step required attention and patience, but they moved together as a team. When they reached solid ground, relief and accomplishment washed over them. Solara watched silently, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke, her voice carrying a rare warmth. "You have passed every test. Your actions have shown courage, intelligence, and loyalty. You protected what was innocent and valuable even when it brought risk to yourself. You have proven that humans are capable of honor even amidst conflict. Rian bowed slightly. Thank you, Matriarch. That is all I ever hoped to do. The children ran forward, hugging the Matriarch gently. Solara's expression softened as she looked at them. You are safe, she said. And you owe your lives to this human. Tilo and Mira smiled at Rian, gratitude shining in their eyes. We knew you were brave, Tilo said. But now everyone knows. Solara turned to Rian again. You will return to your people with a message. Tell them that courage, morality, and intelligence are not limited to one species. Show them that honor and compassion can guide humanity, even in war. You have set an example that others can follow. Rian nodded. I will. I promise. The Matriarch gestured toward the mountains. Beyond them lay Varkari lands safe for the children. Go now, she said. Their safety is assured. Your path back to your own people is clear. But remember the lessons of this journey. Protect the innocent, think carefully, and act with courage. That is what makes a human remarkable. Ryan guided the children toward the safe zone, their steps light with relief and accomplishment. The journey had tested every skill, every lesson they had learned. The mountains, rivers, and forests had challenged them, but their trust, courage, and intelligence had carried them through. As they walked, Tilo asked, Do you think humans and Varkari can be friends someday? Ryan smiled faintly. If people choose courage, morality, and understanding, then yes. One step at a time we can build trust. Mira looked up at him. We will remember this. All of us, Ryan nodded, and we will continue to protect what is right no matter where we are. The sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. For the first time in many cycles, Rian felt hope. Not just for himself or the children, but for a future where humans could show the best of their nature. Courage, intelligence, and morality had guided them, and those same qualities would guide many more. As night fell, they reached the safe zone. The Matriarch's patrol awaited, ready to escort the children to their family and home. Tilo and Mira ran forward, their faces glowing with happiness. Ryan watched them, a sense of peace filling his heart. Solara appeared once more, standing tall and proud. You have done well, she said. Your actions will be remembered not just by my people, but by those who value honor and courage. You have shown that humanity is capable of greatness. Ryan bowed respectfully. Thank you, Matriarch. I only did what I believed was right. Solara nodded, then looked at the children. They are safe. That is what matters most. Tilo and Mira waved to Ryan, their smiles bright and full of gratitude. Ryan waved back, feeling a sense of accomplishment unlike anything he had experienced before. They had survived, they had learned, and they had proven that courage and morality could bridge worlds. As Ryan turned to leave, he looked back at the mountains and the forest, at the land where danger and beauty existed side by side. He thought about the lessons of the journey. Trust, courage, and intelligence were stronger than fear. Compassion could change even the course of war. And one human could make a difference, not through weapons, but through actions guided by honor. The stars began to shine above, and Ryan led the way back to human territory. The journey had tested him, but it had also shown the best of what humanity could be. And somewhere in the distance, the Matriarch watched, knowing that this encounter had sown the seeds of understanding and hope between two worlds. Rian walked on, carrying the lessons of the journey in his heart. Courage, morality, and intelligence would guide him, as they had guided the children, and in that moment he understood that even in war humanity could shine, and even across worlds trust and honor could build a bridge toward a better future.